R slash I don't work here, lady. This story is very short, but I thought I'd share because it made me giggle a little. I just flew home after a quick business event. I was in an aisle seat. There were two ladies sitting in the seats in front of me. They were maybe mid-50s. Most likely family because they were talking about Thanksgiving plans. The lady in front of me was so loud they probably heard those Thanksgiving plans all the way up in the cockpit. Across the aisle from them was a man probably in his 30s who was quite muscular. Shortly after the seat belt sign came off, the muscular man got up to use the restroom. And the lady directly in front of me practically screamed to her companion, "I think that man's an air marshal. He just sat there during takeoff and was really paying attention to everything." To which the other lady just said, "Maybe." The funny part was about 10 minutes later when the air marshal got a drink which happened to have alcohol in it. At which point the lady said, "Well, I guess he's not an air marshal." Her voice was just dripping with how offended she was the poor man chose a profession other than the one she'd picked out for him. I just got a huge kick out of that. Completely reminded me of this sub, so I had to share. Hello everyone, it's been some time. Another story from my time when I worked at a bicycle rental shop. Don't really know if it belongs in this subreddit, but here goes. One day, an entitled idiot came to the shop with a mountain bike which gear had broken, which is attached to the back wheel. He demanded that his mountain bike must be repaired at our shop. The mountain bike belonged to another rental company. I tried to tell him that and tried to come up with a solution. Conversation as follows: entitled idiot equals EI. Me: "I'm sorry, I can't repair your mountain bike because you're rented it from another company." EI: "Why not? You are also a bicycle rental shop." Me: "That's true, but that mountain bike is not ours, so I can't just repair it. Besides, it's going to take around 1.5 hours to repair, and I don't have time for that." EI: "The other rental shop told me that the service included repairs on the spot." Me: "I'm sorry, I can't repair bicycles other than our own. What I can do is give you one of our mountain bikes which you can turn in at the other shop. I will contact them that you have one of our cycles and they will fix the rest." EI: "No, that's not what the receipt said." Me: "I know, but I'm offering a solution so you can enjoy your holiday without any hustle." EI: "You are not offering anything, I demand to speak to the manager." Side note, I was kind of the manager, minus the extra pay. Me: "You are talking to the manager." EI: "You are just a boy, I want to speak to the manager." So I gave him the phone number of the other rental company. He called them. They explained the situation. He was more angry after the phone call. He just walked away with his broken mountain bike and gave me the finger. It was one of the strangest things I've seen, because the other rental shop was 5 kilometers away. I guess he walked all the way over there, the idiot. Hope you enjoyed. I work at a big retail store. Today is my day off, but my family needed to run in. My dad and I are walking through the Christmas section and I see a Vietnam veteran and I thank him for his service. He doesn't hear me and gives me very well and gives me an odd look. We walk off and are looking around and his wife walks up and asks me if I can check them out. Not like they had seen me working before, just for some odd reason she thought I was an employee despite definitely not being in uniform. Her husband says, honey, they are customers." She apologizes and walks off to find someone else, and finds the general manager of the store and asks him if he could check her out, which he happily does. Two things that help with this story. I've always looked much younger than I actually am and always had a very youthful voice. I'm so used to being called ma'am on the phone, I just roll with it one half the time. At the grocery store where this took place, I was told by an old lady who told me I was taking people's jobs by using the self-checkout line. When I rolled my eyes, she yelled at me saying, "I hope I'll take your job one day." I responded by calling her a crazy, old bat. All of this was witnessed by an employee who also witnessed the following 2 weeks later. It was winter in a northern state and I'm wearing my favorite black jacket, blue jeans, and black beanie. Combine this with my youthful appearance, I was 30 at the time, I can understand how it looks like I work in the grocery store since most of the employees were wearing black jackets/hoodies over their store color shirts. Especially when I'm checking out my own groceries. So, there I am, scanning and bagging my cart, when I hear "Hey!" being yelled a few times, progressively louder. I finally look up and there's an old man yelling towards me. This man clearly was born before WW2. Which line should I stand in? I'm confused, but have years of customer service experience, so that instinct kicks in and I say, "Sir, whichever line you want to." But which line? Exasperated, I tell him I'm sorry, I can't help with that. Had some help you are. The employee from my previous awkward encounter figures it out and says, "Sir, he doesn't work here, I can take you in this line." He then looks over at me, I return the classic white person awkward smile, and just looks at me with that unbelievable angry smile head shake. As if somehow this whole exchange was my fault. He checks out before me and leaves. As I'm finishing up, that employee comes over and says, "Why does this always happen to you? Even since then I've taken off that black jacket when food shopping. This just happened to me today and it made me smile, so I just had to share it here. I was shopping at Walmart and realized I needed to pick up a bag of cat food for my kitty. Unfortunately, the Meow Mix, which is the only cat food he likes, was on the very back of the highest shelf, and I'm only 5'1", so I couldn't even come close to reaching it. So I walk around the crowded grocery section, looking for help, and then I spotted a guy wearing a white jacket who was stocking bread onto the shelves. I approached him. "Excuse me, sir, do you work here?" He turned to me with a smile. "No, I work for Pepperidge Farms, but do you need some help?" I thanked him and told him my problem. He immediately went with me and got the cat food down for me, even though he was short too and had to make a jump for it. I thanked him several times. Pepperidge Farm guy, if you ever happen to read this subreddit, thank you so much for helping me, even if you didn't work at Walmart. You really made my day. BG, at some point in high school I dressed pretty formally, nice shirts and bow ties, black pants. During the last year of high school we went by different workplaces to see what the work was like. One of them was a sugar production company. Even though we were all pre-university students, most of the day consisted out of touring the factory, just looking at machinery. During this tour, a tour guide came up to me and asked me about some specifics of our planning that day, and being a very chaotic person I had no clue about it. Apparently she confused me for one of the teachers that joined us on the trip. Unfortunately, I realized too late, could have just let the whole group march out of the place right away. It was one of the worst, least relevant school trips I went on. This just happened, so I decided to check out a newly opened stand-alone department store that opened nearby. As I'm browsing the shoe section, a young employee approaches me with a rack full of clothes he's restocking. He asks if I know where he can find whatever children's brand. I'm a little bewildered because while the dress code is clearly very young and casual, I have a heavy scarf and bag on me, definitely looking like a shopper. Also there are at least 4 other employees actively working in the shoe section, but whatever, everything is new and the store layout is confusing, so he's probably still figuring things out. I tell him, "No, sorry, I don't work here." Almost without missing a beat, he launches into "Oh, well if you're not an employee then you're missing out on all sorts of savings, if you get our store name card you'll save 20% on this and that and blah blah blah." I'm not a very confrontational person but I'm tired and this is sort of annoying, so I ask if he gives everyone this surprise spiel. He says no, he just thought he'd try something new. Needless to say, I didn't end up with a store card. I never thought I'd end up with an "I don't work here" story, especially not of the bait and switch variety. In the late 1990s, I was a young college student working as a summer intern at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control is. I worked in a building that had lots of offices and labs for programmers and electrical engineers in the front, a big industrial space, a maze with lots of pipes, catwalks, warning labels, with a huge vacuum chamber in the center, and then me in a closet at the back of the building that had been transformed into an office. Each day, I would go out to lunch and make my way through the maze. One day early in my internship, I discovered lots of people taking pictures of the vacuum chamber and making their way out of the building. I merged into the crowd and went out the building with them. They continued going straight and I made a left to head to the cafeteria. About 50 feet later I hear someone shouting, "Come back. You can't leave the tour, you could be charged with trespassing." I turned around and saw a young woman yelling at me. And then I realized all the people were getting into a tour tram. But then she was able to see I was wearing a badge and said, "Never mind. I didn't know you worked here." After lunch I talked to my boss and she explained that Space Center Houston, a museum nearby, ran tours and our building was one of the stops. And she thought it was funny that they thought a tourist was trying to escape. For the next few weeks, I would delay leaving for lunch if a tour group was also leaving the building so that I wouldn't be confused for a tourist and get yelled at. But then later, I started deliberately merging into the group and would then start to run to the cafeteria. When I would hear a shout, I would explain/show I was an employee. After a week or so of this, all the tour guides knew of me. I wonder if I got a cool nickname, and stopped getting alarmed. But I could still hear the tourists make a commotion and that made it worthwhile.